If I can look back and say we were able to help 10, 15, 20 people obtain their CAEs, and then eventually a couple years later, see them go into their leadership roles, I feel like that's what this is all about.
And we're getting to the point that we've really got to think about what does sustainment look like.
We are creating a ladder of leadership, a ladder to success. We really want to make sure that that's the space where people feel like they can belong within this greater space.
This is Associations Thrive, the podcast celebrating successful associations and their leaders. I'm your host, Joanna Pineda, CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. Listen in as top association executives tell all, revealing the creative and innovative ways they're increasing membership, generating revenue, nurturing engagement, and reimagining their organizations. By the way, if you've launched a new initiative, created new member services, or updated your governance structure and are seeing great results, I want to hear your story, and so do my listeners. I'd love to have you as a guest. Go to podcast.matrixgroup.net and apply to be on Associations Thrive. Now let's dive into this week's show. Today, I'm speaking with Rebecca Achurch, Chair of Association Women Technology Champions, or AWTC, Kelli Baxter, Vice President of Black Association Executives, or BAE, Carlos Cardenas, President of Association Latinos, and Diana Lee Tucker, Chair of the Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Association Community. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us, Joanna.
I'm grateful to you all for allowing me to have this conversation with you. Let's start off with each of you telling us about your organization or your group. Rebecca, let's start with you.
We've had the pleasure, AWTC's had the pleasure of being on your podcast before. So for those of you who haven't tuned in and don't know who we are, we really exist to empower, advance, and recognize women in the association space that are using technology to advance their organizations and advance their skill set. So we're trying to elevate women in tech and the use of tech in associations.
Kelli, you're up.
Yes, the Black Association Executives. We're a community of Black professionals and allies who are part of or serve the association community. We created this space for our like-minded association professionals who identify as Black or Brown to foster a community that really builds and sustains a pipeline of Black association executives in an atmosphere that's positive and fulfilling. We have a mission to empower all of us to foster leadership and to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as accessibility within the association sector. And so we're committed to providing resources and mentorship to support and to help our Black professionals to thrive and excel in their careers. We've started this after being in Nashville at an ASAE annual meeting, and there were just this group of people that did not know that we had other people that look like us in the association space. And I know that Carlos, Diana, all of you can all relate to that. Like, oh, I didn't know I had so many people that look like me that are in the same space. And so it was so refreshing and so wonderful to see that. We created the Black Association Executive so that we could have that space for our community to come together and support each other in a space where we're a very, very small percentage of the entire membership and of the entire industry.
Carlos?
Association Latinos is a little bit over 5 years old. We started out of a conversation, a small group of people, and then, we immediately realized, again, to Kelli's point, there are others that we need to find and we need to figure out how to give them a voice. So, organically we grew, we put together a website, a LinkedIn page, and that started to grow. And then we started to notice that people were gravitating towards us and they wanted that sense of community. And so we incorporated in 2021 as a 501c3. And so our mission is to increase and advance Latino leadership in associations. And that's kind of the fancy way to say it. Our mission is to empower Latino leaders and build pipelines to leadership roles. And that's mid-level managers, that's senior managers, directors, C-suite all the way to nonprofit boards. And so that is our mission. And through networking and through events, professional development, our hope is to empower them, to put them in those leadership positions. So that's kind of in a nutshell, things that we want to do and how we were born.
Diana?
The AA and HPI Association community is relatively new. We are over 3 years old, and we had to find each other pretty purposefully at first. And we are made up of East Asians, South Asians, Southeast Asians, as well as Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders. And while that's a really large population group, we still felt pretty invisible in the association space. And it was more common to say, wow, I can't believe that I found another Asian in the room than it was to say, oh, finally, we can meet up with other Asians in our association space. We're focused as well on nonprofit and governmental and association professionals of all career stages and all types of organizations. Because we've been invisible, so to speak, for so long, we are trying to focus on raising the visibility, increasing the influence and the number of leaders and representation of AA and HPI in associations. And we're starting out, our mission is to support and advance our connections and our careers through networking, mentoring, and knowledge sharing. So that's how we've set up our early initial years in getting the community awareness up. And we started with just a few of us creating the first strategic plan and outlook that did center on awareness and representation and career growth. And now we've come into our second strategic plan where we're focused on representation and really sustainable growth, because we last year went from 50 members to 90 members, which is terrific, but we have to make sure that we're still raising that awareness, making sure that others see us, find out about us, and come to us. And like we've all said, we really want to make sure that that's the space where people feel like they can belong within this greater space. And we also welcome allies. We absolutely love supporting the other community groups, and everything that we do, we have an eye for making sure that it's not exclusive to AA and HPI. We are very much open to everyone who's interested in doing things with us.
Thank you for those wonderful introductions to your organizations. I'm struck by how similar your missions are. There's an advance, there's empower, there's increased visibility, there's increasing a pipeline, there's mentoring, there's leadership. So I'm going to ask you all a question. Why do it within the context of the Black Association execs, the Association Latinos? Why not just do it all together? Why do you need mentoring, maybe as a Black Association exec by another Black Association exec? Why is that important?
Well, even though our title says Black Association Executives, it's in our name, but we represent different levels that make up the organization. And we're very proud of that. When we have more than 350 members now located on the East Coast, the West Coast, Midwest, Southern states, and beyond that even. So to me and to our members, we've been historically left out of professional spaces, especially in the higher level positions within the association space. So I think that having BAE gives our members a home where they can share and uplift each other and they can grow professionally without always looking over their shoulder. Organizations have always existed that are made up of people that have shared interests and commonalities. And a lot of those still exist today. NAACP exists. Hispanic Alliance for Career Advancement is still, that exists. And there's a lot of others. So we're not persevering. We are thriving like many other associations, including who's here. We are persevering through the major challenges and the obstacles that come through everything from political landscape to just community obstacles. And so we're wanting to stay connected. I think that having a home for like-minded professionals is really important, especially in the landscape that we're in right now.
Having cultural proximity, right, I think is another reason to bring us all together. And so again, I could go back to 5.5 years ago, and we were having these conversations and statistics. A McKinsey advisor stood out to say of the association forum, and you can probably broaden that and say of the association profession, only 2 to 3% were represented. And so that got us thinking in terms of the entire workforce. It's the same, 2 to 4%. So those are the margins, right? We're margins. And so it's like, we know we're out there. Why are we not? What's the reason we're not connecting to these associations? And so what if we created our own space? Would they gravitate towards us? And so I think naturally, the cultural aspect of Latinos in general, we're not all the same. I'll just say that. There's a sense of being, the imposter syndrome, the lack of confidence, waiting for your turn, speaking softly, maybe not asking for some of those things. And so I felt like we thought it was an opportunity to unlock that confidence for Latinos. And so again, we create our own space. People come around each other. They get that confidence, familiarity. I think to Kelly's point, we have a good distribution of professionals all the way from C-suite, all the way to people that are just coming into the association. So we wanted to be able to foster and cultivate that empowerment and then spread the seeds out into the association profession. So that's why we thought it was important to create our own space.
Everything that Carlos just said, we could have said it ourselves. We have said it ourselves among the AA and HPI group. And again, because we haven't been as visible, so for us to stand up and be a beacon right now to draw people who look like us in, because they haven't seen that in our profession for a long time. We're starting out, again, under 4 years old. So we need to put our stake in the ground and then grow from there.
I want to go back to the descriptions that you all gave of your organizations and your groups. You talked about being focused on a specific gender or race, but you also talked about allies. Talk to me about why allies are important and how do you include them in your groups?
We don't work in isolation, right? And so even though we are Association Latinos, I think we all work together in the broader association profession. We've all volunteered on ASAE committees, even Forum SIGs, potentially. And so I think we all understand the importance of bringing people together because we don't live in isolation. We need other people's help. And me personally, I can tell you, I've made it a point to sit with each and every one of the groups, that are represented here on this podcast. And so how am I supposed to help and be an ally if I can't sit with you and try to understand? So that's how I approach it. I think the more that I understand some of the challenges and opportunities that you face, I can position myself and our community to be better allies for each other. I've traveled to conferences in and out, AWTC. I've helped Black Association executives establish their social media presence. I've sat with the AA and HPI group and had coffee and breakfast. And so I feel like you don't just talk about it, you actually have to do it. Not to brag, right? Or not to say anything like that I'm better than, I just feel like that is the way. So I want to be that example.
I agree with Carlos. We are all minorities. And I can say for a fact within the Black Association community, we have Afro-Latinas, we have Black Asian in the community. So why wouldn't we be an ally? Why would we not want to be allies with each other? We have members that are part of the LGBTQ plus community. And so I think that one of the things that we noticed was that, we're all in this together. We are the minorities in our industry. And we're yet again, as you said before, that small percentage. We're just that small percentage of the data. And so I think that we now have noticed that, and we feel a need to really make sure that we come together to support each other. And I think in 2025, we really did that very well. We collaborated with AWTC with a webinar. We collaborated with Associations Latinos. We supported AAHP and we supported their webinars. And I was amazed at what happened. I was like, oh my God, I have to go to all of their stuff now. And at annual meetings and different environments, we've all supported each other. We're posting like crazy on each other's LinkedIn pages, which I love, love, love. So we're promoting each other's events and supporting in other ways like that.
Well, Rebecca, AWTC sees allies differently, and you're very welcoming of men and from all sectors. So talk to us about that strategy.
I really think knowledge is power. I'm going to go first on the men and others. I think the more aware we are it really does break open conversations. And if people are uncomfortable, then how do you begin to break down barriers of comfort than to begin to have exposure to something? And that begins to lower the barriers. We welcome anyone into our organization, men or women, any color, we don't care. When it comes to what's happening on the vendor partner side in the industry, we didn't see a place that our partners were having an opportunity to advance their skill sets. So we really took an active role in saying, you're part of our community. We work together, associations and partners, and you need to increase your awareness about women in tech in these technology companies and provide opportunities for them to advance as well. And that's what makes our partners better vendors in this space. Again, raising levels of awareness. So we had a whole strategy about making sure that our tent was very, very welcoming to the partners in our ecosystem, because we felt like that was the rising tide. If our technology partners are better, then our associations are better. And then there's more awareness, and then we have better adoption, and then that comes full circle. So we really embrace that. And our technology, we call them our friends in the industry for the organizations that actually support us financially. But we welcome partners from absolutely every organization, whether you're on the vendor side or from the association side. We've embraced it as the opportunity to make sure that the industry is successful, because we're creating better and closer relationships.
Love all that. So what does your 2026 look like, Diana?
We want to maintain our momentum. And over the last few years, we've started making sure that we have events and highlight and uplift our community members through AA and HPI Heritage Month, which is the month of May. And that's taking a really intentional effort to bring people together, make sure we get visibility and representation in the things that are going on in the association and nonprofit space. For us, we also want to make sure we have an opportunity to bring people together face to face and focus on the ASAE annual meeting and getting people together there and having a chance to talk to each other face to face and learn more from each other. We are doing limited programming once a month, and that works for us because we are starting out. But that opportunity for community gathering, especially around food, has been tremendous for us. And then we're going to be launching a pilot mentoring program as well. So more information will be available next month. But that's one more big picture initiative that we want to support professionals at different stages and learn from each other. It's actually going to focus first on peer mentoring so that we're helping each other. It's not necessarily a senior to a junior, but everyone brings to the table a lot of terrific different experience. It's like when your kids tell you how to use the latest technology, right? It doesn't matter the age or the experience level. It's certainly just unlocking that knowledge that's already in the present among our community members. So we're looking to really gain traction on those three bigger items, but maintaining the connections and adding hopefully more small connections throughout the year. And it is one of our objectives to do more joint programs with the other community resource groups. So we haven't put that on the back burner at all. That's absolutely present and in our strategic plan.
Kelli, what's BAE up to?
Well, our biggest initiative this year is we're looking forward to officially obtaining our IRS tax determination. We're applying, getting our application in, and that's going to allow us to support our community much more. We're really looking forward to the community resource group allies doing some more education together. We came together last year. We submitted a proposal to ASAE and it didn't get accepted last year. So we decided to do it on our own and we did it in a series. I'm really looking forward to us coming together to do something else. We got to follow that up with something. I feel like that is now something that should be a regular annual thing that we're doing together that leads up to annual meeting that brings us closer together. We'll continue our monthly meetups. We have our in-person meetups, virtual ones. We are in our second year now of hosting CAE study groups, and allies are welcome because we've had a few of them in our study sessions and they absolutely loved them. We also started a book club last year and we thought,
Wow.
I laughed because I thought, oh, no one's going to join a book club. And more than 50 people jumped in. And it's a really deep book we started out with that is kind of taking us a few months to get through, but we'll continue as that program grows. We are planning more collaborative webinars and we will continue to support ASAE with our voices and our ideas. We will definitely continue that. We're excited to continue supporting all of our allies.
I want to do it all. I'll say that, but I can't do it all. When we first started, we had 5 board members, and then the next year we had 20 volunteers. And then after that, we had 40 volunteers. This year we have 80 volunteers, not including the board. So we're up to 88. So imagine what we can do, right? With that many people that are willing. I say that facetiously. And I also joke to say, like, I'm an IT guy. Do I really know what I'm doing in terms of board governance? And so I feel like I think about things from an entrepreneurial perspective. And so what are we bringing to the association marketplace that is our competitive advantage? We can't out ASAE, or out forum the forum. And so what is our competitive moat? I think culture is one of those things. I think the connectedness of the groups is another thing. So partnerships are going to be a huge deal for us. I think by the time this podcast comes out, it will have already been announced. But we are creating if you've heard of Si Se Puede, right? Yes, we can.
Yes.
We are creating a CAE Se Puede umbrella program to deliver CAE programming. There's an exam fund that is going to be announced pretty soon, but we're filling up that bucket with funds to be able to subsidize or wholly pay for CAE exams. Broader ambitions down the road, there might be study groups or cram sessions and things like that. There will be professional development centered around AI, right? It's like, we don't want to be left behind. So we got to get in front of this. How can we leverage the tools? We're all volunteers. We all have full-time jobs. There's a lot of administrative overhead that our volunteers have to deal with and tackle. And so how can this technology help us augment the work that we're doing? And, professional development, we've got a couple different task forces as well. So we put out a workforce trend study a couple years ago, I'll say 2024, didn't get the love and attention that it needed. So I said, let's create a task force so that we can give it the love and attention and care that it needs to be able to not just put out a report, but to actually evolve it, take a step back and say, like, what did we learn from it? What can we do differently? Foundation, 2026 is a year of foundation. So before we grow any bigger and before we start to think about scaling, we've got to have the first floor in order, right? So I created a technology task force to be able to help us standardize some of these things, processes, what technologies. And so we're going the way of a CRM or AMS and a membership model. That's another thing that we're tackling in 2026. And then a governance task force. And so as we start to, again, grow and scale, there's going to be growing pains. And I think from the first day, hey, we need governance. We need governance. We're too busy. Who are we kidding, right? So we need a task force to be able to devote the proper attention. Those are the high level, just a cross section of the things that we're shooting for, aiming for in 2026.
Wow, this is amazing. I love hearing what everybody else is doing. It's inspirational. At AWTC, we plan to continue to build on the community that we have built, both in person as well as virtually. I think there's going to be a continued concerted effort to really grow support in the Chicagoland area again. We're beginning to have some in-person cohort that's really developed there. Our programming, Carlos mentioned AI. I'm sure that that's going to be on our radar. Our programming is just getting ramped up, but we all know what it's like to run associations. We've done that. And I'm going to build off of what Carlos said. We're officially 5 years old. We've been loosely more like 7 or 8 years old. And we're getting to the point that we've really got to think about what does sustainment look like? How do we maintain the energy and the community that we have? Because it really is about this combination of having a really wide tent and umbrella, but also creating these really tight connections. And it's a really interesting sort of balance to continue to try to strike as you sustain that over years and years. So we're at the point where we're really focusing on how are we going to sustain this. So as some of the founders begin to exit the board, that it is really an organization that can stand on its own 2 feet and has a vision for the future that is maybe something that's slightly different than what the original founders envisioned. So that's the interesting sort of transition and crossroads that I know that many association leaders can understand that that's where we are. We're really looking forward to continuing to engage the community and other sorts of associations and partners that are on this call today.
So I got a question for you guys. Many of my listeners are association CEOs, and they often represent an industry or a profession. Should they think about creating community resource groups? So say you're professional engineers, or say you're in manufacturing, or you're in whatever industry. Do you think that they should be creating spaces too, so that women, Latinos, Asian Americans, and African Americans within their communities can come together? Because if you think about it, we've got this association executives and allies and partners as the tent, and within that tent, all of you exist. What do you think about that message?
I've actually seen a lot of associations I've worked with who already have those. They've organically created themselves. They've just organically grown through other communities, and they're calling them whatever they're calling them. So SIGs, or just communities of collaboration. So I've already seen that happen in lots of industries, especially within the engineering space, transportation space. I've already seen it. I don't really know the answer to creating new ones.
There's kind of a war on these groups, right?
Right.
So what do you say to that? It's kind of out of fashion.
Yeah, I think you have to think about creating those. No matter what we talk about, no matter what community resource group, the common denominator is the people. So they're coming to work, they're coming to an environment. We like to say authentic selves, but how do you give the attention and nurture that individual? These are the things that they gravitate towards. So how could you not? And in the absence of that, where do we go? What are we? Right? We're already at 2 to 3%, 4%. If you don't even have that inside the organization, how do we have a place to gravitate towards each other? So I feel like we must, and I underscore that and emphasize that, we must continue to create these groups, and that's going to help the organization. And I think there are studies that show the more that people can come together and be their true selves, the more that they're going to contribute and appreciate the organization that they work for. So how do you maximize the talent and the skill set of that individual, of that worker? How do you develop them? And I think this is one way, and it cannot go away.
Yeah, fantastic.
Today, it seems even more critical to make sure that we're maintaining or creating those safe spaces for people.
I got one more question as we close this out. What do you want to be able to say at the end of your term that you're proud of, that you're happy either you accomplished or that your group accomplished?
I know going into this year, success is going to look like making traction on our strategic plan, because we were very intentional and focused on where we should place our time, talent, and treasure, given that we are young and we are not funded. And so we need to be more judicious about that. I feel good about our strategic plan. And as Joanna mentioned, we are going through our own business planning right now to make sure that, again, we're responding to today's environment and the environment that we're operating in today, even though we created this plan a year ago. And how can we make sure we're keeping up with what we want to accomplish and how well we accomplish that? So that's a big focus of mine, is to make sure that we have a better handle on our representation, making sure that we know which community members are in positions that elevate and uplift our AA and HPI community. We also want to make sure we're growing sustainably. So I really want to make sure that we activate and mobilize our volunteer corps. I love Association Latinos growth in that area, and actually hearing from all of you, BAE, Association Latinos, and AWTC, you all are doing things that I want AA and HPI to be doing when we grow up. And we now have a roadmap, so to speak, and all these tremendous milestones that we know we can hit. And we're going to start by increasing our volunteers and the work that we can do and mobilizing that in a focused way that's going to advance our representation and our knowledge sharing among our group.
If I can look back at the end of this year, or whenever my term finishes and I leave the organization, I mean, I'm not going anywhere, right? But I think if the organization is in a better position to fund ourselves sustainably, I think we've all kind of said that, I want to be here for a while. So if I can lay the groundwork to have that diverse revenue stream, however that comes in, membership model, non-traditional membership due or non-membership dues. If I can lay the groundwork to be able to pay our future selves, I would also say not live paycheck to paycheck and asking for funds to pay for a particular event, but to think more broadly and create more strategic partnerships. We're creating a CAE Se Puede program, and we're intentionally going to either pay for or subsidize CAE exams. If I can look back and say we were able to help 10, 15, 20 people obtain their CAEs, and then eventually a couple years later, see them go into their leadership roles, I feel like that's what this is all about, right? So we could talk about all of these things, but I think if I can look back and see that we've made an impact and that we can sustain, Rebecca, back to your point, founding board members don't want to give it up. If eventually we walk away and their new leadership comes in and it still continues to thrive, I think we've done our jobs. But the last part I'll say is that to bring others behind us and to mentor and foster younger leaders. So I'm the board president. I'm already thinking who's going to succeed me. I'm just 14 days into my term, 16 days, but who is going to take that baton and take us to the next level? So why wait till later? Start to groom them now. So all of those things, I feel like if we can do those things and bring our community together, I think we will have made an impact and succeeded.
I think success for BAE in the next year will be in creating and executing a succession plan and just continuing to watch our leadership grow in their profession as a result of our collective efforts. We are creating a ladder of leadership, a ladder to success. And so, like Carlos is saying, I think the success for us looks like that person that didn't even know anything about associations and they came to a virtual meetup. And then the next year they got a job in some association, and then they decided they wanted to stay because it's great for them. They found a mentor, and then they got their CAE, and now they are in a management position, or they've been a manager for 10 years and they were able to move up into a director level position because they saw someone that looks like them and was able to find a mentor that could mentor them through those steps and those processes. So I think that success for us looks pretty much the same as others in that we are continuing to provide the mentorship and prosper together.
So for those of you who don't know, I've actually served in basically the treasurer position for the last 4 years. So when Carlos talks about putting the organization in a place that's sustainable financially, in essence, I've been the fundraiser, to be clear, because we are funded by our friends. That legitimately is what is able to sustain the organization, because we've decided that we don't want money, finance to be a barrier for anyone to engage with our community. So we gave out $10,000 in scholarships this year for people to advance their skill sets. I love what Carlos is talking about with doing the CAEs. So when I look back in 2026, if we've been able to really begin to chart our path into a sustainable revenue model so that we can continue with our mission and never letting finance be a barrier for anyone to be able to participate and to grow and engage and to really uplift the community. It was what I said earlier, to have the big umbrella, but the tight connections, and know that that's going to be a sustainable model, and know that we're growing the technical acumen within the association community and women along with that. Those are win-win propositions for the industry and for our association, because that means that we are moving forward. And that's where I want to be And to be frank, I mean, it is a financial model that goes along with that, but it's also the enthusiasm and the energy that comes with it. I think there's a genuine love, and I hear that in what everybody else is saying. If people could see the podcast and the smiles on everybody's faces when they're talking about these organizations and the enthusiasm that they have with that, gosh, I want to put that in a bottle and make sure that that's like present at every AWTC event, because it's infectious and that's what we want to carry on. So if I can have that energy and that sustainability at the end of 2026, we will feel like it's mission accomplished.
Kelli, Diana, Carlos, and Rebecca, thank you for your time today. Congratulations and have an amazing year. I'm going to have you guys back because I want to hear about how your 2026 was.
Yeah.
Check in on us again down the road.
Yeah, please do.
Will do. Thanks for listening to Associations Thrive. We're so glad to have you here. You know, my personal mission and the mission of my company, Matrix Group International, is to help associations and nonprofits increase membership, generate revenue, and thrive in the digital space. I want to hear stories of how your organization is thriving in today's challenging landscape. Please apply to be on my show by going to podcast.matrixgroup.net. By the way, do you need help with a digital initiative? Maybe it's a website redesign, a new membership database, or a hybrid meeting that you're planning. I'd love to connect with you. Please visit the Matrix Group website at matrixgroup.net. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Associations Thrive. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating, post a comment, and share it with your colleagues and friends.